Welcome back to another video. Bradford City have drawn again, a 0-0 draw at home to Lincoln. What are your thoughts on that result in the comments down below? Like the video if you do go on to do so, and subscribe if you are new or if you just want to. But there's a lot to unpack from that game. I thought it was a very interesting game from both sides of the coin. That Lincoln played really well and we didn't do enough. Particularly in the first half, from what we expect from a Graham Alexander Bradford City team. We were quite sloppy on the ball, and we didn't have that foothold in the game that we normally create at home. Is that because it was Tuesday night? Probably does play a big part in that with the atmosphere, but I thought the atmosphere was really good, particularly in that second half when we were playing like we normally do with that high tempo, high intensity football, and we were forcing Lincoln back. But they were real threat on the counter attack. But I'll get more into Lincoln at the end of the video. But I do want to start off with the fact of the question that I want to give to you: is it a blip or is it a wobble? Four draws in a row, still unbeaten. Just one defeat this season, which was that defeat to Doncaster away. I think it was 3-1, if I remember rightly, which is absolutely fantastic. 14 games played, 27 points. You wouldn't have believed that would have been the stage that we were at come the end of October going into November. And that is something that it is unbelievable. So do you take that and go, right, we can have this little wobble, which I believe it more to be a wobble than a blip, or did you expect more from those games? I mean, you can look at the four isolated games that these draws have come from, and Rotherham were 2-0 down, and we got a point, so it seems more like a win, but that were a game we did want to win if we had those aspirations, but you do need to turn those away draws against the teams who were struggling at the time, Rotherham, who have picked up since that draw, but you do want to be winning that game, but it may well look to be a good point. Barnsley, the amount of chances we had, you're disappointed not to have won that game, but you respect the opposition that Barnsley are going to be in and around there, and they were a fantastic team, and it offered a fantastic football match. And then Stevenage, we get a point there, which you'd probably take considering the league table and the fact that that was only the second goal that Stevenage have conceded at home this season that we scored through Neil Byrne of all people. And then yesterday, Lincoln are going well, and again they're a very tough team to break down, very tough team to beat, and they've gone and got a point. And like I say, I do think Lincoln matched us really well. And there's a question of, have we been found out in these games? With Barnsley coming in and having a game plan that were effective, I think Rotherham a more case of it was a bit of a, not a fluke game, but a very bizarre game of how poor we were defensively and they took the chances, and then how poor they were defensively, and we didn't create enough. We weren't very good against Rotherham. So there's a case to be made about that. And Stevenage, I thought, again, we didn't play as well as we should be playing for what we expect for our team to roll up to look like, but you do have to respect Stevenage. And then Lincoln, I thought, I'm just going to get straight into Lincoln. I thought they matched us and played the perfect way to deny us our opportunities, how we want to create. They had three strikers up front, from what I saw, or three forwards, whatever you want to call it. They had three men pushed up against our centre-backs. Our two centre-backs want to be right centre-backs who can overlap. They had two men on either side, one man on either side, and a man down the centre. They were physical and they wanted to hold the ball up, and our centre-backs had to be really strong to that. And I thought all of them individually had a weakness in that game, and I was very surprised that Lincoln didn't score for the amount of chances that they had, for the amount of chances they created through our centre-backs not being decisive, not being aggressive enough, and being a bit too divery. And then the midfield, I don't think it won the individual midfielders in Power and Metcalf. I thought both had good games, but they got overrun by the way Lincoln was set up. Their midfielders wanted to be high and wide again. They wanted to exploit the fact that we want to give and goes and want to get in behind their defence by being wide, having midfielders running into channel. And again, they exploited that, and they always had that extra man from when they picked up the ball. They could then go and drive and play it into the forward men who could hold it up for them, and then they could play from there. And then the centre-backs were big, strong, and very bullish, and they seemed to get the better of us there. Even when Andy Cook came on, he struggled up against your Sonny Bradley's. So I thought that was the perfect way to play against us in the way they set up, and it really opened my eyes to how good of a manager Michael Scabala is. So yeah, we're really impressed, and like I say, I think anyone who plays like that against us, we're going to find it very hard, and we're going to have to adapt. But I think we did adapt in the game. Sarcevic got deeper, and we made it more of a compact three, and then Kavanagh pushed up with Swan in the first half, and then Cook in the second half. And Swan coming off at half time, I think that were a big call from Alexander to make, because Swan's not been firing. He's on a bit of a goal drought now. I think it's over 4 games, but he definitely hasn't scored in the last 4 games, and he's been brought off, I think, in 3 of those games. Or no, he got brought off in 2 of them, and he didn't start against Barnsley, I don't think, and I don't think he came off the bench, but he started against Stevenage and were ineffective, and he were against yesterday and brought off at half time. And before the game, I think against Stevenage, he mentioned something about players not training properly, not training well, and that's why they haven't been given the chance. And you do sort of look around the squad and you think, well, who's he on about there? And I think that there's a whole host of players who you could maybe look at who haven't been getting a chance recently, who you might have thought should have been. And then for him to be dragged off at half time, I thought it were a big call, particularly when how poor Callum Kavanagh is and has been and were yesterday again. I really don't see what he offers. I don't want to be too critical of a team that have done so well in these last 8, 9, 10 months, and it's continued into this season. Like I say, with the points tally run, it is unbelievable. You wouldn't have ever imagined it, but they are still individuals who I'm not keen on, and Callum Cavan, unfortunately, is one of those players because I don't see what he offers. I really hope he can turn it around. He's such a young player, so he still has that opportunity to do that and to win people over, but I just can't see what he offers. I don't know what he's good at, and I certainly know what he ain't good at. And to me, that beggars the question of why he gets so many opportunities against players who I think offer more than him in that final third. But yeah, he would have been one I would have brought off, and I would have liked to have seen Swan up top with Cook. So that were a big decision, I felt, at half time. But I think we have to talk about the defence. Yes, we got a clean sheet today, and we only conceded 1 against Stevenage, and it were a bit of a fluky goal again against Barnsley, with that goal in their own half, and then 2 poor goals were given away against Rotherham in these draws. But we've had a lot of swapping and changing in that back line. Pennington's been injured, he's coming back into contention along with Humphries, and there were another player who's coming back from injury. Pattison, I think it was all in contention for Saturday, which is huge because injuries have been a big problem for us. And it's not just saying it. We've had about 5, 6 starters who have been out in this last month or two, if you count until at the beginning of September. And they're all influential players for us who were missed in their own way. And whether it's what they offer to a game, how they can impact a game, or whether it's the fact that we've got tired legs out there now. You're looking at a player like Josh Nerthel who impacts games by his pace, wants to get 1v1 from a player, knock it past them and get a ball into a box, but then defensively wants to get back and put everything into that. He's an all-action 100% effort player, and when he's obviously looking a bit jaded, and I thought he were yesterday, it's harder for him to be what he's effective with, and that's his pace and exploiting opposition. And I've seen in the last 2 games where he struggled to have that explosion of pace on a consistent basis in games, and I think that's something we've got to look at. Because that's worrying, and that's where it comes with tired legs and injuries that are coming and players having to overplay. So yeah, and there's a few more like that I'm looking at and I'm thinking, yeah, they look a bit tired. And then there's the natural quality that you're missing in the final third and the goals that we're missing. I'd still consider Andy Cook a player who's out injured because he hasn't started a full game. We sort of have to monitor him, and he's not fully fit. So he's not a player who's fit for selection, is he? Because he ain't fit to start. He's fit to manage his minutes, and for me, that means he's still an injured player because he ain't his effective self. So yeah, that can get added to the list. So you've got about 8, 9 players who have been out recently, and that's got a massive effect on the squad and ourselves. And this time last season we had the same thing. So why does that keep reoccurring? Well, that's something that I can't answer. Whether that's down to the pre-season or the training or the way we play, I won't want to change any of that because it's been successful. But it is a bit concerning how many players we have injured and how many centre-backs we get injured around this time as well. Bolden's back into contention as well Saturday, which is a big plus for us on the ball, because that's what we missed. For some reason, we wanted to play out from the back at various moments during yesterday, And Joe Wright, Neil Byrne and Kieran Kelly can not play out from the back effectively. You know, if you have an Aidan Baldwin in there, you don't mind us doing it from time to time, trying to bypass a press because he can be one ball in behind. But Neil Byrne is just a diva on the ball. You know, he's very shaky. Joe Wright ain't comfortable on it, and neither's Kieran Kelly. And for too often we were trying to build from the back with them and to put a press on them. We were very lucky not to have conceded on at least 2 occasions when I remembered them getting in our back three and behind our defence. So yeah, that's a bit concerning. When you look at Pennington, Baldwin, even Till, they all know what they're going to do when they get the ball at the back, and I don't think them 3 did. And they were very concerning throughout the game, to be honest with you. Kieran Kelly got man of match and a lot of plaudits on social media after the game. I didn't see it, I have to say that. I've looked at his stats, and yes, he won all his aerial duels, and a lot of his, I think he won all his duels 1v1 as well. But when I was watching the game, I didn't feel like he had that good of a game. I thought he was a bit, again, indecisive, a bit slow, and he didn't look awake a lot of the time. And he still might not have been, but he got his duels won. He won his aerials when he needed to. I'd have to look back at it because I don't know, but how tall were the man who was actually on him, because I feel like he got him behind him a lot more than he clearly did aerially. So what was he, more of a nippy striker who is going to win the aerials, but he's going to struggle to get in behind from. But I do feel like Kieran Kelly has had a lot of criticism, and a lot of people have forgot how good he was around 2 years ago, definitely before the last 11 months, because I think previous to the last 11 months, he was a very good player for us, very, very effective. He had a bit more pace than he did now. He used his physicality well, and he didn't get caught out of position as well as much as he does now. But from this last 10 months, he's not been that same player. He's been a bit of a liability for us. So yesterday, it was a bit. Last 2 games that he has been better than these last 10 months, but it was such a low bar that you need him to be better than what he were, because he was a liability and he was too shaky for us. But Alexander said it was his best performance in a City. Christ on earth, I can't be saying stuff like that unedited. In a City shirt, and I don't really see that, to be honest with you, but hopefully it gives him more confidence, because in the last 2 games he has massively improved, and I only read recently that he's going on more games, which you want to see, but he's got to look like he's more awake for me than he were, particularly in that first 20-30 minutes. I thought he was still in bed, or ready to go to bed with his Rovers originals. So yes, but I think there's a case of, again, with Joe Wright. He went out of the races again today. He hasn't been since he come back from his concussion injury, and people are putting. I've been putting that down to it, but I also think it's a partnership. You know, with centre backs, it's not just the attributes they bring, but it's what the partner brings and all the rest of the back three brings. And I think when he was alongside Curtis Tilt down that side, Curtis Tilt had smashed into somebody, and he was aggressive. Joe Wright in that play is the complete opposite. So that they complement each other really well. I look at Murillo and Milenkovic at Nottingham Forest under Nuno. Murillo were the aggressor. He'd step up and he'd charge into men, and he'd normally win the ball. But if he didn't, Milenkovic were the one who would sit off and he'd protect that space. So then if someone were going to run into that space, he's already got it covered. Whereas Kelly or McIntyre, he's got to get used to that partnership. He's got to get used to how they play the game. With Till, it was straight, and everyone knows how Curtis Till plays. He's very aggressive. Whereas them two, swapping and changing them, different partners, him not being in the side, it's harder to get used to that. And I think that's a poor excuse. Maybe you could say that, but I think that's definitely the reason why he's not been that same assertive player who we've seen, where he's a bit more dithering. Should I go, should I not? With Curtis Tilt, there's a good partnership that we're forming there. And I think when Tilt comes back, you'll see a big improvement in Joe Wright. I have no doubt about that. But he has been significantly poor recently. So yeah, I think I've covered a lot there. But I'm just going to leave you on. Are you worried about our lack of goals? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. Because, like I said earlier, we created a lot of good chances against Rotherham. We didn't take them, particularly Swan and Pattison, I remember. Barnsley, we could have scored 5. You know, we were so good at creating chances and getting into the right areas. Didn't take them. Stevenage, we didn't create any chances really clear cut. and yesterday we created a few, but we didn't lack the composure in the final third and that clinical edge. You know, Lee blazing it over, Andy Cook at the back post, among 2 or 3 others, but not enough for my liking at home. So it is a bit of a concern, because I do think sometimes we can be indecisive outright, and we can end up being caught where you've got your overlapping centre back, you've got your wing back, and then you've got your you've got your midfielder who's making that overlapping, underlapping run, and maybe even a striker, depending on if you're playing 2 up front or if you've got more of a Kavanagh in that 10 or a Humphries in that 10. They come over and it all gets a bit congested. And then you look at putting a crossing when you work the opportunity, and you've got 4 of them on the edge trying to work it in. And then you get the ball in, and they win it, and then they've got a counter on. I think that's consistently happening recently as well. And I think that's, again, teams putting maybe 2 or 3 players down that right channel, and they're stubbling or tripling up on us, and then we've got to try and rework it, and it gets congested. So I think that's another thing that we have to be careful of. Our team's finding us out now. But when we go to Burton at home, that has to be a win. If we want to be in the top 6, and for me, everyone wants to be in the top 6. You know, that would be an outstanding achievement. But I'd still be happy with 14th. I'd still be happy with a comfortable mid-table finish. Where from how we've started with 1 defeat in 14, that ain't going to happen in the next 14. We aren't just going to get another 1 defeat. We're not going to have lost 2 games in 30. That ain't going to happen. So we've got to get used to getting these frustrating draws, maybe being on the wrong side of a 1-0 defeat, which I think probably will happen against Burton. So if we want that top 6, we've got to be beating a team like Burton at home. If we're going to finish mid-table, we'll draw or lose that. And then going into Plymouth and Bolton away, which is a couple of tricky games away from home. Whilst you want to be beating a team like Plymouth at the minute away from home, it's always going to be tough. Then we'll find out where we are come Christmas, won't we? And we've got a favourable one from Christmas. But then there's a question of, are we not playing as well against teams who are going to sit in against us, or a team who we want to be beaten or expect to be beaten at this moment in time? Then we've just got to see what the future holds with that come halfway, and that's where I want to judge us, because we've had a fantastic start. We could fall away, and if we do, we fall away, but we've had this good start. But just give us a foundation of what we can come back to, and it's given us a fantastic start to a season that none of us expected. And like I said before, enjoy the moment. And at the minute, it's more hoping for the best, because our expectations aren't quite that low, but we are still hoping the best. But then the expectations might expect to drop, and I think we can expect that definitely in these next couple of weeks. But a great start to a season, a good point, I'd say. It's in that middle range maybe of, it ain't a good point, but it's certainly not a bad point. You take it and you move on, and you've got to win your next home game, which is Burton. And I think that's where we're at with that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on everything we discussed. There was quite a bit to unpack, so I don't know how long this video actually is, so I hope it's too long for you. Subscribe if you're new, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Have a good one.